Welcome back to the channel. So yesterday we were talking about Swift and XRP, and I addressed Chainlink also because Chainlink has that that official rollout that's coming in November. So that's something that's very, very key. And I'm both an XRP supporter and as well as a Chainlink supporter. You should know that by now. I support the top bank coins, XRP, Chainlink, Solana, etc. You know, the usual suspects. So, but here's the thing. I see a lot of articles come out, and a lot of big time article writers will seem that they're trying to make people choose between Chainlink and XRP, or make people believe like Chainlink is all that Swift needs. So therefore it has pushed XRP out of place when it comes to integrating with Swift or taking over Swift or competing with Swift. But that's not the case from what I'm seeing in my research. Okay. Now Chainlink, and this is what I was trying to convey the other day. Chainlink does very specific things. They bring everything together. They're like the glue. And that's primarily what Swift wants them to do. But here's one of the biggest problems. With Swift, what have companies been complaining about? You know, they've been complaining about pre-funded accounts. Okay, well, if that's a major problem, we've seen that over the years. Does Chainlink help solve that problem? No. No, it doesn't. That's a simple answer. No, it doesn't. The problem of pre-funding accounts, because there's just so many different banks and so many different systems that Swift is working with. This is why they're trying to consolidate everything. That problem is going to remain. Look all of this up, okay? So you can see it for yourself if you need to. But I'm telling you from what I've researched. So now they still need to resolve that problem of pre-funding accounts and locked up liquidity, or what do they call it? Trapped liquidity. All right. Well, when you look at the top bank coins, and this is something else I was attempting to convey yesterday. I'm not sure how clearly I said that, but if you didn't get a chance to watch that video, I thought it was a good video. I thought I've been trying my best, even on days when I haven't been 100%. But who resolves that problem of trapped liquidity? Ripple does. XRP does. On-demand liquidity does. Now, I do believe that talks between Ripple and Swift have taken place, and that's one of the reasons why Ripple was so giddy earlier in the year. Now, that's just my speculation, but it makes perfect sense. Over the years, Ripple has talked to a bunch of different banks. They've made a lot of partnerships. They've been tested by a lot of major banks. And we've never seen that type of giddiness when they came out and said, well, we're working with a number of powerful entities. We're working with a number of central banks of which we can't name. I believe Brad Garlinghouse was the one who said it. Okay, so but there was a multitude of interviews around that time period a few months back where they were just overly excited. But why would that be if they're just doing the same old thing that always has been? No, there would need to be another catalyst that would cause them to feel in this different way. That makes sense? It's like, for example, if I give you a cookie every single day, chocolate chip cookie every single day, sure, you might be excited the first two, but after a while, there's going to be this normalized behavior when you receive the cookie. After about 2-3 years of receiving that cookie, if all of a sudden you're like, yay, and there's this different explosion in energy, there must be another catalyst. There must be. My thoughts are, and I'll tell you why I think this after I state this. My thoughts are that they are in discussions with Swift. Nothing's in concrete right now, but right after that explosion in energy, when they were talking about they're working with all these central banks and banks, ones that some of which they haven't even named yet, right? I'm paraphrasing, but we all saw that a couple months back, right? Right after that's when Garlinghouse began coming out and saying how they could capture 14% of Swift volume. Folks, do you believe they haven't been in talks with Swift? I would have to respectfully disagree. I believe they have. I believe that there's Ripple with on-demand liquidity solves that problem. Swift itself said they were going to work with more DLT companies. And then I showed folks, if you haven't seen the post that I made in members only section, I say this with the utmost seriousness. Go to the members only section, look at the post. You can read the screenshots I put, but if I put a link to a certain website, you'll see what I'm talking about. If that link is there, if I did that correctly, Go observe that. That's an official link. They let the people know their intentions. This is not a secret. So if the legacy system is saying something and the bank coin companies are saying something, and we're seeing the proof not only in writing, but we're seeing the proof in their actions. Even if they're covert, overt, it doesn't make a difference. We're able to observe it, then that will bring us closer to a conclusion that this is the truth. Now, once again, right after that, they came out and they were talking about how they could take 14% volume of Swift. I firmly disagree with that as well. I know they're lowballing that, but you know what they're doing is conditioning. In my humble opinion, it's conditioning. They're conditioning the people to the idea of Ripple working with Swift because they have to undo the conditioning that has been done over 4 years or so, where they were telling people that Ripple is bad and, they have these problems with regulate. They have to undo that. Although they're free and clear, most people don't know that. They still have this, I'm not so sure. It's like when a lion is tamed. People have seen lions on TV being aggressive for so many years on National Geographic that once they're on the safari and there's semi-tamed lions, I won't say tamed fully, but semi-tamed where they could actually be around them. Lions can walk past. Even though people know the lion's not going to attack, they're still a little bit standoffish. Well, this is the same thing here. So they're reconditioning. They're getting people used to the idea of Ripple is here now. We could possibly do something with Swift. We're powerful enough. We can work with them. We believe we could take 14%. They believe that. I believe it's a lowball number. They're trying to be respectful. That's a lowball number. They're trying to be respectful. Ripple, if it flips the switch and turns everything all at once, and they're working with all of these different, they had 300 banks allegedly years ago, then they probably have close to 800 to 1,000 now, which I believe is what James Waller was talking about when we saw that article. I'm pulling everything together. If you like this type of content, please click the like button, because I don't know what's going on. Please click the like button. But James Waller was saying that there was a bank he didn't name, not bank, there was a DLT company, a fintech DLT company, of which had like 800 banks or something like that. He referenced that. Remember that? I screenshotted it. I put it in the video. Okay, and I theorized that he was talking about Ripple. It makes perfect sense. They had 300. This is what they alleged. 300 to 400 years ago, like 3 years ago. This is what was being said. No super solid evidence, but we did see a lot of different banks working with Ripple. But who's to know if it's 300 or 400? But if that advanced evenly across time until now, that would make sense that they have about 800 to 900. I'm just theorizing. There's so many different pieces that fit to that this puzzle of Swift and Ripple working together. So Swift needs what Chainlink brought to the table. They also need what Ripple brings to the table. Now, here's another aspect. You tell me what you think about this, okay? And I appreciate you being here. I really, really, really do. Why would Swift want to compete with such a powerful company? Ripple's going to rapidly be gaining power, I believe, similar to what the IMF has. I've been saying it for years. I believe that. You don't compete with that type of company. You don't. Even though Swift could end up on top, right? Let's say they don't go with Ripple. They took a different path and they end up on top. It doesn't matter. Ripple is going to do damage. It's not even just Ripple is going to do damage, because they're going to move a lot of volume, in my humble opinion. There's no way around it. They have true global reach and are rejected nowhere. The gates are wide open for them. No country has a problem with them as of now. They're going to run the table. Swift doesn't have that. They're moving in the opposite direction. China's trying to get rid of Swift. Southeast Asia's trying to get rid of Swift. Everybody's going to, and other countries that are still on a Swift system still will have to use DLT technology to connect to the new financial system if all of those other countries get rid of the westernized, weaponized Swift system. They're still going to have to go through it. So Ripple is poised for domination. Ripple, Hedera, etc. So you don't compete with that. So what will be the wiser path if you're Swift? if we're thinking in that strategical way. We're just brainstorming here. We're thinking strategically. The smarter thing to do is to work with them. Sure, you take your time, you work out deals, because it has to be good. Swift has to ensure its own, I won't even say survival, because they can survive, but they will be greatly diminished. They have to ensure everything that they need, that they believe they need to move forward strongly into the future, period. And not have, we've already seen them being broken apart. A lot of the banks that are a part of Swift already have been working with Ripple and other bank coin companies. You don't do that. You don't go against this. You work with this. Let them earn their keep. They've just gotten free of everything. This gives you a little bit of time. This gives you a few years. Swift can continue to work, build, integrate with other DLT systems. Who knows when they'll make an announcement, if they do. These are my thoughts, not financial advice. It gives you some time before you have to announce, hey, we're working with Ripple. Ripple solves that locked up liquidity problem right now, here. Ripple assures that the pathway Swift has always been on remains that way. If they go against Ripple, it does not. It does not remain that way. Ripple has better technology. They're faster. They're younger. They're more attractive. They can lower price. They loosen up liquidity. On-demand liquidity is patented, by the way. So they have that on lock. Anybody tries to copy that, they're going to be in court. So Ripple has that on lock, and they have a lot of money. I don't think people want to battle them too much, right? Okay, so you want to tap into that and you want to solve that problem. I see Swift working with Ripple. I think that's a good amount of evidence right there. Ripple also, when it comes to RWA. Now, keep in mind, Swift as a conglomeration of banks, they all want a piece of RWA value. So they're thinking ahead in that way as well. We can't think of Swift as just one thing. It's a conglomeration of minds and methods and systems. They want a piece of RWA because individually, a lot of those banks have already spoken on it. They want RWA. They want staking. They want lending capability. The banks as individual pieces. I would say looking at them all together, they will want that as well. So now, if you introduce something like Ripple with their XRP, XRPL, you have Chainlink, you bring in something like Hashgraph, Hedera, HBAR. Now you're starting to look, this is becoming a more complete robot. That's what it is. Like one is the heart, one is the body, one is the limbs. They need these pieces for this Frankenstein that's coming together. I think a lot of people aren't seeing it like that. So, I mean, no disrespect. Sometimes we have to let go of our tribalism. We have to let go of our tribalism, let go of our, tunnel vision. Sometimes I've even gotten tunnel vision. I don't think I have that now. I try to think as obtusely as possible while keeping things within reason. I think you'll see that's what's happening here. Now, once again, circling back around, Swift's own words through multiple documents, they've put it in multiple different ways. They want to glue systems together. That's the same verbiage that the bank coin companies have been saying for a long time, that the bank coin companies wanted interoperability, that they wanted to tie things together. Well, if Swift wanted to do that, they would have already been, if they wanted to do that, and if they were capable of doing that, they would already have done it. So what does that tell you? They can't do that without the bank coin companies. They're already working with Chainlink, but Chainlink doesn't solve pre-funding of accounts. And that's just one thing. That's just one thing. Folks, we'll see how this goes. So I know I'm touching on a lot of different things. I did mention the 14%. I think that they were being respectful with that. But if you have true global reach, right, like Ripple does, you have central banks you're working with in China. You have a banking system that you're working with in Japan. You're working with the central bank in England, Bank of England. You're working with a lot of the top banks in Europe. You have some reach in Africa. You're definitely deep in the MENA region. You see where I'm going with this? You're deep in Australia. I showed you the banks in Australia, right? We've been doing some good work here. Once again, if you like this type of content and this type of work, please click that like button. It doesn't hurt me to ask. You're very deep in the United States, and let's not forget Latin America. So you're deep all over the place, and you're this deep at the beginning. Folks, that's something where Swift has to take a look at that and say, wait a minute. And you're one of the biggest lobbyers in politics when it comes to crypto in the United States. You're going to rapidly gain power. Whereas a lot of these entities have rested on their laurels. They've been at the top for a long time. When you're at the top for a long time, you become lazy. A lot of this, you see this all the time. You lose your hunger. It's like a basketball player, a football player. After a while, you've made your millions, you've played for a while, and you hear this from athletes a lot. They've lost their hunger. They don't know why to play anymore other than they've just been doing it. Companies are like that as well. So they don't feel like they have to push too much. They feel like they have enough power, and that's how you lose. That's how someone like Ripple swoops in and they start scooping up influence. They start scooping up power. They start scooping up value. They push forward. They still have that hunger. This is something Swift will work with. I don't believe they want to go against that. I don't believe it. This is why they all have been, once again, look at them as individual pieces, testing out DLT technology, XRPL, Ripple technology, and it doesn't make a difference which angle they approach it from. It all boils down to XRP. XRP is the key. XRP is the chosen one. I don't say that lightly. I don't at all. I say that to ram home a point. Something major is going to happen here. So 14%. 14% was respectful. But if you have all of that global reach, what percentage do you believe they can reach, that they could take a volume from Swift? You don't think that they could do at least 14% respect? They said 14%. Although it's respectful, that's pretty impressive. Let's say they do that. I mean, they don't have to do that. Let's say they don't make the mark. But let's consider if they do that, 14%. And that's a lowball number that's what they thought they reasonably could do. You don't think they could do 20%, 25%, 30% with all of that global influence and reach, bringing a benefit to all of these different companies? Literally right now, think about this. There's no negative for these banks to utilize the Ripple system. They're not paying any fees. They're lowering fees. They're losing fees and gaining capital that they now can play with. What did the banks say that they wanted? They wanted to expand. A lot of banks were complaining. Facts. They were complaining about wanting to expand. They can't do that without capital to play with. They can do that by saving capital. They can do that by staking. They can do that by lending. You're going to see a conglomeration come together to push this Swift idea, this new Swift monster. It won't be the Swift that we knew of the past. It will be a part of the new financial system. The engine of it, they know it. That's why they're integrating with DLT. You got the Chainlink rollout coming in November. That's just the first of many. They let everyone know that. They're going to work with a bunch of different we'll see over this next few years. But I believe what I've been researching, I have a lot of stuff up on here. I pulled from a lot of sources on this. I've been looking at this for like 2 days in a row, just researching, reading documents. It's all pointing to the same direction. They're going to work with some of these top Bankcoin companies. I think Ripple is one of them. I think Hedera is another. We already saw Chainlink. I told people I thought Chainlink was going to do well. Remember, before Chainlink began working with Swift, I was saying how I thought that they were doing some big stuff and they would work with a multitude of banks. That's when they started racking up banks right after that. Look at the video times. Look at the dates on that. They started racking up, and that was based on research. That's what I'm trying to say. Research is going to point you in the right direction. Then they start racking up banks. And then after they started racking up banks, I think it all began maybe with Australia. I know they did some good stuff in Australia, just like Ripple did. That's when after that, shortly after that, it was announced they were going to work with Swift. I'm seeing similar things happening right now, when it comes to Ripple. We shall see. All right, so now let's cover a little bit of Bitcoin news. I hope you're all having a fantastic weekend. All right. So now, in my humble opinion, Bitcoin's still looking good. This article is titled, Bitcoin price falls below $109.5 thousand as whale spoofing and US PCE data pressures markets. It says Bitcoin dropped nearly 3% to lows to $109,436 amid whale-driven selling. Okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Typically, in September, Bitcoin has a little bit of a struggle. And that's just because people have habits. People have this habit energy. So every year, the end of the summertime, people are taking vacations. Maybe that's a little bit of mentality there. They're ready to protect their profits because they have this, like I said, in their minds is also embedded that in September, Bitcoin's a little bit rocky. They're throwing different catalysts in here as excuses, hotter than expected inflation numbers, the job market, etc. But once again, I want to say, I also believe, because this is, once again, the whales all at the same time. They've been doing this for a while, bringing that price down. I will say, watch and see if companies begin to buy. I firmly believe they want better prices that are more delicious. Because once again, and this was some months ago, we uncovered this information, if over 70% of companies are not into Bitcoin yet, wouldn't you as a company want all of them to get in? Don't get me wrong. You loved that price when it was up 124K, whatever it was. That was beautiful, but it could go much higher. Don't you want those other companies to get in? Why? Because as a company, that they are the ones, not retail. They are the ones that are going to boost that price up, and you want their money. You as a company, you want to take their money. You as a company, you believe you can defeat all of them. You have the best researchers. You have the best analysts. This is how you have to think as a company. You want them to get in. You want that price to go down so they can start rubbing their hands together. Ooh, now I can get some Bitcoin at a better price. They get in, the price goes up, and you plan to take that capital from them. Sell before they do. This is a game. So I think that's what you're seeing here. Now, retail whales, I think they see the writing on the wall. Bitcoin's getting dominated. They don't know how much of the volatility they want to deal with in the future. So a lot of them are cashing out. They're going to enjoy their lives, things like that. I do think that's a lot of what you're seeing here also. However, they're only doing that because, once again, they see the companies taking over. They see nations taking over. Asset managers. This is a part of the game. Now, people getting shaken up and, oh man, Bitcoin is going. I see the articles already popping out. Oh, it could be a new bear market, something like that. I don't agree with that. Even if there's some consolidation at a lower price, I don't think this is a bear market at all. The major catalysts remain. I'm going to stay strong in what I've said. I believe that Bitcoin is poised for a massive explosion. There's natural dips, there's natural corrections, natural consolidation because, once again, of humanity's habit energy. People go through cycles, they go through habits. And so even though naturally this price shouldn't be this low, there shouldn't be this type of selling. I don't see anything that should rock Bitcoin's price like this other than human mentality. Other than that, the catalysts they're throwing out there, I think, are very, very flimsy, to be quite honest. This is down because people want it to be down. Some people somewhere want this to be down as a strategy, and everything else is an excuse for minds of people who are satiated by those excuses. They say, oh, that's why it's down. Okay. And it makes it easier to accept that. But no, this game has turned into, this game is now on the chessboard where it used to be on the checkers board. And companies are playing the game. We'll see how long this stays down. But I believe that's what's happening. That's what I see. But I'm not concerned about Bitcoin at all. It's looking very good. The setup for both Bitcoin as well as altcoins looks very solid to me based on catalyst. Now, you could disagree with me. I'm fine with that if you disagree. That's perfectly fine. I'm not here to argue with anyone. I'm not here to convince anyone of anything. I only speak for myself. All right. I try to be as respectful as possible. Here's the thing. This could rapidly change. We've seen this rapidly change many times. This could rapidly change. We'll see if the habit energy can keep this price down. We shall see. The large asset managers companies typically don't play by the same rules as retail. We'll see if they start buying things up here because they see opportunity, and I think they will. I think they're letting it take its natural flow for a while. I do. And they'll pump that up anytime they want. Here's the thing. So some companies, they'll sell and they can stay out of the game for a little while. We know that, right? They're just a regular company. Asset managers have clients to make happy. Their clients have taken profit. Some of them, the ones who have done some selling, some of them have done some major buying actually over the last few weeks. We saw that. But ones who have sold, their clients are happy. Their clients will get a little bit anxious after a while and can we make some more? They'll come to their researchers and analysts, very well paid, and they'll say, what are the catalysts? Have they gone away? Can this go up again? They'll say, yeah, it can go up again. The catalysts have remained. So we can make some more of this? They'll say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. We can make some more of this. Well, can I get back in? They will get back in because they see that rinse and repeat cycle is solid for the foreseeable future. They'll get back in. That price will start going back up and the game will be on again. Just my humble opinion. We shall see. Maybe I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but I could be wrong. But I believe that's what you're going to see. They were satisfied. A satisfied customer comes back, and they typically are not going to wait that long. They had a great slice of pizza. They're coming back the next week for another slice. They want to taste it again and see if it was real. It's like Bitcoin. We'll see. You tell me what you believe in the comment section below. Appreciate you all being here. So now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, everybody, let's get to the money.